What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 53 of the Foundation First Fitness Show with Bob Ackowin. Today, we are doing a review on episode 51. If you haven't checked out that episode, highly recommend getting back over to episode 51. It's with Nick St. Louis, the Foot Collective. We do a lot of talk on, the foot, his ideas, how he thinks about the foot, how he thinks about the body, and how our lack of understanding of how to treat the foot and how to handle it and try to prevent those things from happening is actually leading us down this vicious cycle of always being hurt and always dealing with foot-related issues, hip-related issues. And if you noticed, if you did listen to the episode, one of the things that was really interesting was that probably in the last 2 or 3 episodes, in the last 2 or 3 interviews that I've really done, I haven't said much. I've been very quiet about it, almost letting the other person lead the conversation, because I know that if I start interjecting and giving my own opinion, it's going to be like an hour-long episode, and you guys already listen to me enough as it is, so you don't need to hear me, you want to hear them. So I kept a lot of my ideas and a lot of my thoughts and my opinions to myself, so even if you listen to that episode, I think I said maybe about 10 to 15 words the entire way through, and then there was the intro and the outro, and that was pretty much it. But one of the things that was really interesting with what he said was it was almost his understanding and his idea of the body, of the foot, of the hip, of everything, and how it all relates back together. Really interesting stuff. One of the things that really I was really happy he mentioned, which was shoes and footwear. I think footwear is one of those areas where it's really hard to go against what everyone's saying. Right? When the entire world is telling you need arch support in a heel to cushion your heel, and you need arch support, it's really hard to go and find a shoe that doesn't have that. I mean, if you walk into a Foot Locker, if you walk into a shoe store, a running room, you're going to notice, the first thing you're going to notice is every single shoe that's on the wall, except for maybe 5 to 10, if you're lucky, 5 to 10, are basically built the same way. They have a huge heel and they have a really high arch. I mean, specifically running shoes. So high heel, really high arch. And so as a runner, you can't really do much to avoid it. You really have to search for a shoe and almost go to the unorthodox, if you would, way of thinking, which is get a flat shoe or get those Vibrams that have, the 5 finger or 5 toes that are all individually separated to give you that really flat base and still give you that support under your toes. And that is one of the things that I think is really interesting, because he did bring up that was almost one of the major issues. And it's really hard for a lot of individuals who do work in offices, who have to wear dress shoes, for the ladies who are forced to wear, high heel shoes, which is just a disaster in itself and is causing so many more problems, which I will talk about in a couple of seconds. But if you think about what's going on and how hard it is, you can understand where his urgency is coming from in this entire discussion, where he's almost alluding to the fact that it's really hard to get around it. And when we were discussing things before and after, we were discussing a lot of, how impossible, not impossible, but how difficult it is to convince someone to not buy a specific shoe because it's bad for them, even though that's the only thing that they've ever known and it's the only thing that they like to wear. And so I think one of the things that he did mention, that I know he didn't mention in the show, or he didn't really emphasize it that much, was that, he's not really asking you to not wear a specific shoe. He's not telling the ladies not to wear high heels. He's not telling the guys not to wear those pointy tip dress shoes, which are really not even comparable to the high heels. The high heels are like on a whole other level of terrible. But it's what you're doing around those times that's really important. So if you don't want to stop wearing those types of shoes, one of the things that you definitely should be doing is understanding that you still have a chance to almost fight against it. I mean, albeit it's not going to be the best way and it's not going to be the perfect solution, but you can fight against it nonetheless. So one of the things would be really taking on a proper foot I guess, prehabs. Prehab means prevention of injury. A prehab protocol, or basically kind of routine. I offer up a ton of those for the hip, for the shoulders, for the back, for the core, for the this, for that, for the knees. I offer a ton of those up. I will put another one up on, and all this stuff's available on Instagram. I'm starting to put a lot more of that stuff out on YouTube as well. So there are options for you that are available to you to be able to almost prehab these things. Again, it's not the best solution, but if you're going to try to fight it out, at least bring a lifeboat. You know what I mean? It's going to be a lot easier for you to handle that, especially in the coming years, because one of the vicious cycles that I think people don't understand, because as humans, the things we do see are the things that will affect us on the short term. So the things that are going to affect us on the short term, we're going to notice a lot more. If we get sick, if we get hurt, if we get hit, if we get if you get hurt and you get, slide tackled or something, or, you slip off a curb and you sprain your ankle, that's very noticeable. And the effects are very noticeable. They're very present. You notice them. You're very aware to it. The thing is that our body reacts really well to acute injuries, things that happen all at once, things that come about very quickly. The things our body is not used to is things that take very long. What I mean by that is, what we don't understand that bad shoes are actually contributing to is our lack of movement over the long term. So where I get that concept is very simple. If your foot hurts, you're not going to want to walk. You're going to want to sit down all day. You're going to want to rest. You're going to want to put your feet up. If you have hip pain, you're not going to want to move around because your hip's sore. If you have back pain, you're not going to move around because you have back pain. If you have upper body, and that kind of thing just keeps carrying, right? Because if someone's not moving, then their hips aren't moving. And if their hip isn't moving, then their back is going to their core's getting weak. So their back's going to take a lot of the heat. Then when their low back takes a lot of the heat, they're going to want to rest and lie down. And they're still going to want to text on their phone. They're still going to watch TV. So they're going to be anchoring and corralling their neck up. They're going to be hunched over at the computer because they're going to be sitting down and trying not to. And then that's going to be neck problems and shoulder. And you can see how that can spiral out of control. And all the while we're thinking, we are dealing with these problems because we have this issue. We have our chair's not good, or, I don't exercise enough, or I don't do these things, where in reality exercise wasn't an issue, but in reality, it was really started when you were wearing poor shoes and you weren't taking care of your feet, and then you weren't standing up and you weren't able to do any of those things, or you weren't taking the initiative to kind of prevent those things from happening. And now we've come so far, and then we have no idea that the problem was all the way back here. We think it's 2-3 steps back instead of 10-15 steps back. So that's one of the things I really want everyone to pay attention to, is that it's really not the short-term effect of not wearing a shoe that's going to be that drastic, because that stuff is quickly resolved. Knee pain from bad footwear, hip pain from bad footwear, low back pain from bad footwear, those things are a little bit easier to resolve. But, bad posture and bad movements and stuff like that that leads to shoulder problems, it's so far up the chain that we almost have to take 10 steps to go all the way back. And it's really hard for someone who doesn't see that pattern to almost make that connection and kind of start questioning what they're doing, right? Because if they're dealing with that problem, my first thought process is, okay, what are you doing during your day? And I'm going to draw that picture for them. I'm going to try to go back, and then I'm going to quickly realize that, oh, wait a second, it's coming from their shoe, and they're not standing up, so they're not doing activity because their feet always hurt, and I'm going to cue in on these things. But for them, they're going to be like, my shoulder hurts. Why are you treating my foot? My shoulder hurts. Well, because if your foot wears off, you're going to be able to move it. So it's so far back that it becomes a little bit of it becomes a really, really, really big hill to climb. So that's one thing. The second thing that I really wanted to discuss was, he did mention a lot of shoe, footwear, stuff like that. One of the things that I think is really interesting is, and it's very close to that, it's actually foam rolling. And I discuss this a lot. I talk about it in almost every single one of my episodes. I think at some point, I've dropped that foam rolling topic into probably about half my episodes. But foam rolling is a great way for you to almost undo a lot of the tension that you've kind of built up throughout the day. And it's also a great way to prepare your body for what you're about to put it through. Because not everyone can really get a stand-up desk like this and be able to move it up and down. Not everyone, like myself, can get up and just walk around at work, and not everyone spends their entire day standing up and walk around. I mean, I own this place, so I can literally just walk around barefoot for half the day and no one's going to say anything, so it's totally fine. Not everyone has that luxury. You know, if you're working in a store, you can't just walk around barefoot. So you almost have to do the things outside of that to be able to undo the problems that you're dealing with and almost try to slow it down as much as possible. And you know what? I guess it's really going to come down to how much of initiative you're taking to be able to prevent the issue and almost stop yourself from exposing and not expose yourself to those things as much as possible, right? You know, technically you're forced to be in that shoe for 8 hours a day. Then you need to spend as much time around that barefoot as possible and really exploring the limitations of your body at the hip, at the ankle, at the foot. And if you are able to do that, you're going to be much more likely to get some results. And I think that's what Nick was really trying to get at. And I think that was, I mean, it was fairly clear. I just know that sometimes when people hear it, they're like almost like, yes, you know, but it doesn't seem, you know, sometimes they're thinking like it's so, you know, such a 180 shift for me. How am I supposed to make that change? And sometimes it's just, okay, it's just throwing that pebble, you know, 5 feet in front of you, going to pick it up, throw it another 5 feet, go to pick it up, and slowly inch your way closer to the ultimate goal, which is get rid of those types of shoes, make sure your body's moving well, and be a lot more active and actually be a little bit more mindful about how much activity and how much exploration of your limitations you're doing by moving and kind of creating some space at the joints, some stability at the joints, and reteaching that body how to work properly. But again, unreal episode. One of my favorites because it was a really different spin on a lot of things. The next two guests, which is going to be over the next couple of weeks, are going to be really interesting. I have. I'm not going to reveal who it is, but I have someone who's coming in from a local from Montreal who's doing a lot of good stuff. I really like what she's been doing in terms of her training regimen, what she does, what she's doing with her clients, what I've seen on social media. I really liked it. And to be honest, I hope to God she watches this episode. She listens to this episode. She could listen to the episode. She's got about, once it comes out, she's probably got about 4.5, 5 hours to listen to this, but I'll probably bring it up throughout the show. I'll see if she noticed it or not, because she'll mention it to me. If you hear this, you know who you are, bring it up. She was doing this 90-90 drill, but she was literally doing it bare hands from a deep squat position. So basically in a deep squat to rolling into a 90-90, which is basically get into a split. If you don't know what a 90-90 is, go look it up on my Facebook page, my Instagram page or my YouTube page. You'll see it there. I've put it somewhere around in there. Or you can just Google 90-90 drill. You'll see a ton of them. She basically went from that to standing to off to the side to standing. I literally got it, sat down on the floor, and I was like, come on, it can't be that hard. And I tried doing it, I couldn't do it. I was like, all right, I got to figure out how she does it. So really, I'm actually more excited to figure out how she did that than I am to try to figure out the rest of this stuff. So or to actually know like what's going on with her stuff. It's a little bit selfish, but whatever. So if you guys have any questions on episode 51 or anything I did say today, if you want any tips on any of that stuff, as I mentioned, I will be putting together like a foot care, kind of foot health, little clip on Instagram, and I'll be posting some stuff on YouTube so you guys can take a look at that and maybe start practicing some of that stuff and start putting that stuff into practice and being able to, I guess, take some initiative on that and not let it become a problem that's going to arise in 20 years. All right, guys, until that next time, which won't be till I think Christmas. Yeah. So won't talk to you guys or see you guys until after Christmas. So happy holidays to everybody, and hope to see you guys on the other side. Take care. Oh, and keep building that foundation. Okay, take care.